Thank you, Mr. President. Okay, Jeff. I represent the good people of Benue North-West. My dear colleagues, this is a disaster-related motion on the Benue tanker explosion, the urgent need to curb incessant explosions of petroleum tankers in Nigeria. The Senate notes the unfortunate explosion of a petroleum tanker in Ahumbe village along Makodi Alede Otukpo Federal Highway in Gwer local government area of Benue State on Monday, 1st July 2019. Further notes that the driver of the tanker had lost control of the vehicle after trying to dodge a pothole at a very dilapidated portion of the Federal Highway around Ahumbe village and crashed by the roadside. Regrets that people from the nearby villages defied warning from security personnel and were scooping fuel from the fallen tanker. Then a passenger bus maneuvering his way suddenly scratched its exhaust on the road, which sparked the fire, killing over 50 people, and over 100 others secured various degrees of burns and injuries. Worried that several cases of similar incidents are relatively common in Nigeria, as fires and explosions often occur due to badly maintained roads or because people attempt to siphon off fuel from the tankers and pipelines. Disturbed that the death toll could rise as many of the injured were in critical state at the Benue State University Teaching Hospital, as most victims were severely burnt, while the least of them secured 75% lower degree burns, that more critical cases were being referred to other hospitals. Concerned that nearby houses, shops, cars, and other valuable properties were burnt down in the explosion worth millions of naira. Aware that the federal government has awarded contracts for the dualization of the Kefi Lafia Makodi Enugu Road covering the Makodi Alede Otukpo Federal Highway where the incident occurred. Cognizance of the urgent need to end the unfortunate incessant incidents of petroleum tanker explosions in Nigeria by preferring sustainable solutions. The Senate therefore resolves to commiserate with the people and government of Benue State for the ugly incident and the painful death of over 50 people in the inferno. Second, to urge the National Emergency Management Agency and the Federal Ministry of Health to quickly intervene and assist the families affected and victims undergoing medical attentions in various hospitals. And thirdly, to set up another committee to liaise with the relevant agencies, organizations, and stakeholders to identify the remote and immediate cause of incessant petrol tanker explosions in Nigeria and recommend appropriate and sustainable solutions to the Senate within 8 weeks. Mr. President, my dear colleagues, I so move.
Mr. President, I have a moral representing Benue South Senatorial District. I rise to second this motion, ably moved by my colleague, Senator Gwer.
Do you want to contribute?
Mr. President, like I said, this is very sad for the good people of Ahumbe village where this incident occurred on the Makodi Alede Otukpo Road. Mr. President, I want to use this opportunity to send my sincere condolences and commiseration to the people affected. Mr. President, this draws our attention to the urgent need to ask that the relevant government agencies intervene in the rehabilitation of that road. That road actually is a very, very bad portion of the Federal Highway in Benue State. Mr. President, as we noticed yesterday, in the course of our discussions, we observed that most of our pipelines, and of course tankers in this instance now, are very aged. And at the slightest impact, they can explode. In fact, some tanks on the tankers can fall off the tanker. And therefore, Mr. President, at the appropriate time, I want to be allowed to make an additional prayer to that effect. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Gwer.
Mr. President, I'm Gwer from Benue Northeast. Mr. President, this, even though it's an accident, speaks volumes of the situation of our roads. Mr. President, it's not a hidden fact that we have very high deficit as far as road infrastructure in this country is concerned. This is not just a tanker that exploded on its own. From the motion, the sponsor said the tanker was avoiding a ditch. After office, Mr. President, as governor, I decided to travel by road across the country. And in all parts of our country, Mr. President, the roads are bad. This particular road from Makedi to Enugu is one of the worst portions of the road in this country. And this is an artery that have commuters moving from the south-south, the southeast, all the way to the north. And I believe that there are a lot of incidences like this, just that this one has consumed a lot of life. There are some that have consumed less life, and so people are less concerned about it. There's a need for us as representatives of the people to address the issue of infrastructure deficit as far as road infrastructure is concerned in this country. And this House has the power of budgetary allocation. And so when committees are properly constituted, I think the Committee on Works should be mandated, Mr. President, to deeply look at the issue of the deficit of road infrastructure. But having said that, I want to also say that there are agencies that are saddled with certain responsibilities. For instance, road safety. Road safety is an agency that is supposed to critically look at who is driving which car. Mr. President, I know as a fact that that agency is poorly funded. And so they are no longer carrying out the responsibility for which they are set out to do. And so I can decide today that I'm a tanker driver. But for you to be a tanker driver is different from you driving an SUV or a salon car. But every Tom, Dick, and Harry walks up every day and just pick up these vehicles and are driving. So outside of the bad roads, I think these agencies such as road safety and even the police should live up to their expectation, to their responsibility as far as movement of vehicles is concerned. Now, the issue of haulage. People like tanker drivers and even other commuters should be properly regulated. There are a lot of them that are not licensed. And then our rail system. This ordinary, if the rail system is working, you will have less of these tankers on the road than you now have. The reason why we have a lot of bad roads even is that, you know, tankers are heavy-duty vehicles, and you have virtually all of them applying these roads. The tendency and the likelihood is that these roads will definitely deteriorate within the shortest possible time. Also, related to this, going back to Minister of Works, when you look at road construction in the past, there are roads. Mr. President, there's a road that was constructed when I was in primary school that traversed Benue and Taraba State. That road is still as strong as it was when it was constructed in 1972. Why? Because those engineers then were patriotic. The situation you have now is that the engineers and Minister of Works that are saddled with this responsibility easily compromise with contractors. Instead of building roads that can last for 20 years, most of these roads are built and last only for maybe 5 years. And you go there are potholes everywhere. Again, road maintenance agency. That agency was set up with the sole responsibility of making sure that potholes along our roads across the country are maintained and properly catered for. I don't know whether that agency still exists, because everywhere, most of us here travel by road. And 71% of Nigerians who are living under the poverty line travel by road. And so if we are representing the hopes, fears, and aspirations of this group of persons, Mr. President, this motion should not just be addressed as an isolated incident in Benue, but should be comprehensive, should give us the impetus to address the issue that relate to road infrastructure in this country. I also want to, I don't know whether when it comes to the amendment, to urge this House that we should observe a minute silence for the 50 people that lost their life, because these are just innocent villagers who, because of the poverty level, saw an avenue for them to make some small change by scooping fuel by the side. It wasn't their fault, and so I will urge this Honorable Senate to observe also a minute silence for life loss in this very sad, tragic incident.
Senator